What's the most genius 4D chess strategic move you've ever seen someone execute at work or in life? In my youth I posted at a bustling Dragon Ball Z message board. One year on April Fool's I was messaged by a particularly popular poster that he would like help pranking the board. A particularly tasteless joke. He was going to have his girlfriend post that he was involved in a car accident. To help sell the lie he wanted me to play devastated, and to attack anyone who dared imply such a thing could be a prank, as I would be the only one who knew the truth. But here's the rub. He told everyone, about 80 people, that the accident was fake and that each of us was the only person in on it. And he told each person to react in a particular way, designed to put them in conflict with other people he had told to act in a particular way. I was told to be devastated. Someone else was told to call bulls. Someone else was told to say they were glad he's hurt. Someone else was told to say they were donating money for his recovery, etc. He just sat back and watched the board eat itself. It was pretty funny. This is straight genius. One of my co-workers at a previous job hated our boss. Guy was a suck up to higher management, made our lives a living heck by not communicating actual requirements, etc. until it was too late. Then badmouthed design to upper management and the customer. My co-worker did some digging and found an old copy of the guy's resume online, polished it up, and contacted a few recruiters. Boss got headhunted out of the company. We got a new boss who wasn't a gigantic ass, and everyone was happy. We spread the word that we were all going to skip the last half of the day by leaving out the doors at the disused extreme ends of the school that they usually had difficulty monitoring. One of the NHS officers had a brother who was a fireman whose chief was a bit of a safety and regulation stickler. Sure enough, we get to school that day and the doors at the extreme ends of the building are chained shut. NHS guy calls his brother at lunch. This was prior to cell phones, so you had to wait to use a payphone, and reports a fire hazard. Locked fire exit doors. Result: fire chief himself shows up and orders the high school evacuated while he does a top to bottom inspection on the whole building. Adding insult to injury, a huge bunch of seniors took off during the evacuation. I'll never understand why school administrations try so hard to stop high school students from doing harmless pranks at the end of the school year. I would have just set up sprinklers outside those back doors. Maybe have an extra staff member to record who leaves if you need it for fire safety or something. I don't know if I personally would consider it a smart move, but my boss has been having heart problems for a while. He has a quadruple bypass. He basically knew it was only a matter of time till his next heart attack. He told me he was gonna make dang sure it happened on company propriety when it came. Sure enough, a couple of weeks ago he punched in at 6 AM. He normally comes in around 9:30 to 10 o'clock, and less than 20 minutes later he was in an ambulance. Haven't seen him since, but my buddy from HR says he's listed for workers' comp. Dang that company, demanding he show up at 6 AM and causing his heart conditions from the stress. Worked as a low-level shift manager of a truck stop restaurant for a couple of years. My higher-ups used to do monthly inspections for FMs and quarterly inspections from VPs to see if the facility was up to company standards. I used to have everything spotless prior to a visit except for something benign yet obvious thing left dirty, like top of the buffet was a little dusty, was easy to tell with dark stained wood, or left ice build up in the freezer. I did this so upper management would be distracted by the small oversight I made and would less inclined to look harder of something to reprimand me on. Was a shitty corporation and were required to find something I had to improve upon on every inspection. I have been around a lot of manipulation and politicking at various workplaces. I can't stand it, so I don't delve into it. So suffice to say, probably the most genius stuff was happening around me and I failed to notice it. However, something I was particularly proud of was when compiling reports, spreadsheets, ad copy, etc. I always typed my name in the lower right hand corner but set the text color to white. No one sees it, it doesn't print. But when someone cow manager cow sends off your files as his own work to the higher ups, along goes your signature. It came up in a discussion once where they were debating his data with my own. He had apparently sent alternative ideas in an attempt to discredit my contributions and belittle my capabilities. In a one-on-one meeting, I had them highlight the bottom right corner of all the documents he had sent under his name. They all had my name in the corner. I was working for them 2 months later. My grandfather pulled this move in the 1960s. Not sure it's possible or even legal anymore, but it was back when business owners had personal relationships with their bankers. Gramps had commercial properties where he rented out office space to businesses. One of his tenants was failing and about to close shop, and owed him a bunch of rent to the tune of thousands of dollars. They cut him a check for the rent owed, but asked him to wait a week to deposit cash it. Gramps knew the company wouldn't be around in a week, and he'd never see his money if he waited. He took the check to the bank. They both used same bank, and tried to cash it. Sure enough, they didn't have enough to cover the check, and the teller told him she couldn't cash it because of insufficient funds. Gramps asked how much they were short, and the teller told him about $200. So Gramps took $200 out of his wallet, had her deposit it into their account, and then cashed his check for the thousands they owed him. The next day the owners called him furious and in disbelief that he got his check cashed, and cleaned them out at the same time. Instead of lasting another week, they were out of business that day, but Gramps got his money. I work as a teller and as far as I know anyone can deposit into anyone else's account. So as long as the check is legit then I don't see why you wouldn't be able to still do it. I had a colleague who worked at a very large company who was on temporary promotion to quite a senior position. It was a position that he knew a number of other people in the company were interested in applying for, many of whom were far more qualified than him. The day eventually came when the management decided to fill the post permanently and to start the process by looking for recruits from within the company. He now faced the very real possibility that the well-paid job he'd been doing for about a year might be taken from him and handed to someone from another department. To get the recruitment process underway, the local management asked him to write the ad for the job, which would then appear in the internal job vacancies listings on the company intranet. My colleague saw his opportunity and seized it with both hands. Firstly, he changed the job title in a way that could be justified but made the vacancy unrecognizable to anyone skimming through the listings who was specifically looking for it. Secondly, he started the ad by focusing on some of the more obscure aspects of the job, making it sound almost like an entirely different kind of role. He only got to the core parts of the job that people might recognize after about 3 paragraphs. It worked brilliantly. No one else applied for the job because it was impossible to identify it from a quick read of the title and opening paragraphs. My colleague was duly appointed to it after a successful interview. Fricked up that they asked him to find his own replacement. Chap was hired to build a very complex financial application. After almost 5 years at 100k, I was asked to come in and audit his work, monitor his progress as things were not progressing at all. He had written about 1 page of code, which didn't do anything. He had created a crap ton of JPEG mockups and technical diagrams and even a simple HTML site for presentations and updates to senior staff. He did this whilst sitting within an open plan office where at least 24 people could see his monitor. 5 years. Asterisk. Bill Gates said hire a lazy person to do a difficult job, because a lazy person will find an easy way to do it. He clearly hasn't met your 4D chess grandmaster. Don't know the exact details, but I read a story once about a guy who bought a full fare first class ticket on an airline. He would go to the airport, hang out in the lounge to get free food drink, then go down to the desk and schedule his flight to the next day. Since it was the top tier first class rate, the airline rescheduled with no fee. Kept doing this for something like a year until the airline caught on and told him they wouldn't reschedule anymore. At this point he went to desk and got his 100% refund for the ticket, since that was also airline policy. I was forced to be acting manager for a company I was likely less and less. I had all the responsibility but not the pay, and I was having to help interview actual managers. I hired someone away from a company down the street, then applied there and got his job. That job was the perfect blend of a thing I was good at, paid well for, liked doing, and filled a need. New guy in a fancy suit shows up in the office, and the company president says he's a consultant working for me. Give him whatever he needs. Guy works with us for months, going out to lunch with us all the time. We're all getting on great. Then one day we are in the company meeting when the president invites him up to the front of the room because he's my new boss, the VP of something or other. This guy steps out from the middle of our group like it's the big reveal on a TV show. He was undercover for the past couple months. He asked the president not to announce his title during that time so that he could investigate our department from the inside without us knowing. Thinks back to all the conversations at the bar. Lol rip I am fricked. I used to work as a sub teacher and was having a class of 4th graders. Crafty, manipulative little suckers, let me tell you. One kid absolutely had to sit in the front of the classroom. The reason for this is that he essentially controlled the other kids by giving them looks. If he was in the front you at least had to tell because he turned around for a second or two, gave a look, and some kid chucked his maths book across the classroom. Also, after having a few classes with these kids, one kid stayed in the classroom during the break and I asked her what was wrong. Apparently 2 boys in the class was mean to her and calling her names. So I told her I'd tell their original teacher and or the principal. I was only a sub after all and had no place disciplining kids. As I talked to one of the teachers about it I found out that the problem isn't the boys, it's 2 other girls in the class. See, these 2 girls would tell the boys to go bully this girl and be mean to her. Not because they didn't like the girl, but because they wanted the boys to get told off and disciplined for whatever reason. The bullied girl was just a tool in their eyes. If I ever need a general to confuse and misdirect my enemies in conflict, I'd recruit a 9-year-old girl. 8-14-year-old girls are psychological terrorists. Source: camp counselor during college summers. You have been outsmarted by Smart Doggo of Intelligence. Subscribe to Updoot Reddit to gain +3 Ys from Doggo of Intelligence. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.